have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Marge Lover, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the current issues of the Lockport Union-Sun Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The first issue we're reading from goes back to Tuesday, May 26th, and there's an article called Taking Mental Health Outreach Beyond Clinics. So Niagara County officials recently received national recognition for a suicide prevention campaign that uses a mobile app, coffee sleeves, and prescription stickers to contact residents with mental health resources. Marla Gibbons-Doki, Deputy Director of the Niagara County Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, and Connie Damaris, Community Coalition Coordinator, recently presented the county's initiatives at the National Council for Mental Wellbeing Annual Conference. Using the county's Well Niagara app, Gibbons-Doki Damaris and the Niagara County Suicide Prevention Coalition built an awareness initiative to help people in Niagara cities and rural areas access essential services. Over and over again, we hear people worried about being stigmatized if they seek help, Desmaria said. The phone app allows people to seek help privately from any location, she said, and has been a valuable tool for reaching the county's rural locations that doesn't have counseling offices. An ability to meet basic needs like food and shelter can fuel a mental health crisis. Gibbons-Doxy said that the stigma of mental health issues can help people suffer in isolation. The Maria said whether they are near services or not, they said that while Niagara app shows users where they can access help for basic needs and mental health, including the Niagara County's 24-hour crisis line. So, in other news, the recently built Niagara Travel Plaza got sold to new owners. So, the town of Niagara, a Porter Road Travel Plaza built for $7 million just 2 years ago, has sold for almost $17 million. It has also been renamed, a change that caught Niagara County Economic Development and town officials by surprise. Town officials said Friday that they still have not seen the closing documents for the sale of what was a Quickies Travel Plaza at 6021 Porter Road. The sale was first reported by the Buffalo Business First newspaper. We have no information on what's happening there, Niagara Town Supervisor Sylvia Virtuoso said. We didn't know anything about the sale. Records filed with the Niagara County Clerk indicate that PMM Niagara LLC sold the Porter Road property to Niagara Falls Holdings New York LLC for $16.7 million. Niagara Falls Holdings is a limited liability corporation that appears to have been formed in Queens in 2019, and no other information on the entity was immediately available. So the PEM LLC is an Avon-based corporation that is a parent company of Quickies, which operates gas stations and convenience stores. Its locations are largely concentrated in Monroe County and in and around Rochester. Usually we've introduced to a new business in the town and we discuss what we can do for them, Virtuoso said. We haven't heard anything from them. I think the new owners may believe that they're operating in Niagara Falls. So Virtuoso said town building inspectors noticed a change in the signage at the Travel Plaza from Quicklies to TA Express. TA Express is a truck stop brand gas and convenience store operator owned by Travel Centers of America. Travel Centers of America is a subsidiary of BP, an oil and gas company formerly known as British Petroleum. The only other TA location in Western New York is just off the New York State Thruway exit at Pembroke. Town building inspectors advised the new owners that they would need to file for permits to change the signage on the property. Virtuoso said that the paperwork for those permits have now been received by the town. Wow. So we have unfortunately, a couple of obituaries to read in this issue. And Christian Mark Ozolowski passed away on May 18th. He was from Wilson. Wilma Huntgraham passed away on May 22nd. She was 64 years old. Okay, let's go on to the next issue, which is May 27th. So they're rewilding the canal. Did you hear this? Most people don't find aquatic plants kind of creepy, like the tentacles of some freshwater kraken waiting to pull them underwater. Well, Lindsay Yoder, Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator for the State Department of Environmental Conservation, Region 9, is busy separating the good water plants from the bad. As part of a cutting-edge planting project based at the North Tonawonda's Botanical Garden, Yoder seeks to rewild the Erie Canal this summer while fighting invasive water weeds. After collecting and growing native water plants from the Niagara River at the Botanical Gardens greenhouses, Yoder said the native plants are added to the Erie Canal to reclaim shallow areas where invasive species are removed. So on Tuesday, Yoder and her team planted Vallisneria americana, also known as water celery, or eelgrass, in the North Tonawanda and Amherst sections of the canal. She said aquatic plantings are planned for Lockport later this season. The idea would be to create more habitat for fish and improve fishing, she said. This has been a pretty common concern for people lately. We've seen and heard anecdotally the fishing has improved with the change of vegetation. We also wanted to support wildlife like waterfowl. So Lockport, they have a seafood shack that opened. Another news, located in former AJ's Hot Dogs. So anyone could get a taste of the seaside downtown with today's opening. Oh, that was last week's opening of the Seafood Shack at 20 Lock Street. So they've been open about a week or two now. Owner John George has renamed the former AJ's Hot Dogs and expanded the menu to include lobster, shrimp, clam, and oyster takeout dishes. Sounds yummy. George said he wanted to offer something unique to Lockport. I'm a seafood guy, George said. I lived in Boston for years. So Chef Dennis Garver has cooked up a variety of lobster roll choices, including lobster fried in Mexican street corn breading. Oh, wow, that sounds really good. And a California lobster with lemon, mayo, and avocado. George said that after lobster, his favorite is shrimp, with the restaurant offering a Cajun-tossed fried shrimp po' boy. The restaurant will continue to serve hot dogs, hamburgers, and other traditional favorites. So the Lockport Seafood Shack will be open from Wednesday to Saturday each week from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the Sunday hours are 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And in other news, the Diocese of Buffalo is going to celebrate their consecration of the United States of America. So the Diocese of Buffalo will join Catholics across the nation in a historic celebration of faith and devotion with a special consecration mass on the Solemnity of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus at 5:15 p.m. June 12th at St. Joseph's Cathedral in Buffalo. The Mass coincides with the national call by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops to consecrate the United States to the Sacred Heart of Jesus in anticipation of the nation's 250th anniversary in 2026. All are welcome to attend the special liturgy, which the diocese says will celebrate faith, unity, and the enduring spiritual foundation of the nation. The Sacred Heart of Jesus remains one of the most profound symbols of Catholic spirituality, representing the divine love and mercy of Christ, whose heart was pierced on the cross for the salvation of humanity, according to Bishop Michael W. Fisher. Rooted in centuries of Catholic tradition, devotion to the Sacred Heart calls the faithful to deepen their relationship with Jesus and reflect upon his boundless compassion, sacrifice, and unwavering love. He said, I encourage all Catholics across our region to participate in the special dedication of our nation to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, mindful of our obligation as disciples to be constantly attentive to the suffering and needs of others. And Red Cross is another news, is looking to strengthen the blood supply ahead of the summer. The American Red Cross is calling on people to schedule their blood or platelet donation appointments now to help medical centers stay ready and respond quickly to emergencies. Having blood products immediately available is a key part of summer safety. With millions of Americans expected to hit the road this summer and spend time boating, swimming, and camping, and enjoying the outdoors, the risk of traumatic accidents rises. Blood and platelets on hospital shelves help meet the demand while people experience critical injuries and massive bleeding. During Trauma Awareness Month, the Red Cross highlights this need by asking donors of all blood types and those giving platelets to give now to support all patients who count on transfusions for care. Book your time to give life-saving blood or platelets now. You can call the Red Cross or go online to the redcrossblood.org. And in other news, what tastes like a Korean pancake is purple all over. Well, Oreo's teaming up with K-pop supergroup BTS for a bit of marketing dynamite that capitalizes on consumers' growing interest in global flavors. So, Mondelez, Oreo's parent company, said Tuesday that BTS-themed Oreos will go on sale June 1st online and June 8th in stores. The cookies, which feature purple wafers and a nod to the band's signature color, will be bold in more than 80 markets across the world, making the partnership the brand's biggest to date. The band also designed 13 embossments for the wafers, including the names of the 7 members and an outline of the light stick that fans hold at BTS concerts. The white and tan cream center of the sandwich cookies was formulated to taste like hotteok, a warm brown sugar-stuffed pancake, as a popular Korean street food. For Oreo to be the first snacking brand we've collaborated with globally in a huge honor, we ate them as kids, we eat them in the studio, and now Oreo is helping us share a taste of home with the world, BTS said in a statement. BTS Oreos will be sold for a limited time. Chicago-based Mondelez wouldn't say how many packages it's making. So Martin Renaud Monzella, Chief Marketing and Sales Officer, said the BTS cookies strike a balance of staying true to Korean culture and food while remaining consistent with Oreo's brand and flavoring. In today's issues, we have some cartoons too. There's Frank and Ernest is a cartoon strip, and Frank and Ernest are like homeless guys, and one's real big and tall, and the other one's short, and they come across a hat. Like people that put hats out to get money on the streets. So they come across this hat, and there's a sign next to it. It says, "Invisible, please help." And then in Drabble's out. He's out walking his dog, and the neighbor comes by, and the dog sniffing the neighbor's shoes. And the neighbor says, I guess I passed the sniff test." And the dog says, "He tested negative for being a badger." So a Mother Goose and Grimm. Mother Goose has got her hands full of packages, and the dog talks to I think it's a cat. He says, "Where did Mom do all her shopping?" He said, "Besides Bed Bath & Beyond, her means." And then in Tiger's a little kid, and he's there, and he's knocking some nails into wood like boys do. And this little girl comes up to him, and it's Tiger's friend Hugo. She says, "Hugo, that wasn't a bad birdhouse you built for me." He said it was a spice rack. She said, "Well, then it stunk." Okay, then our next issue is Thursday, May 28th. And so we have some news here. Brownies in Alcott closed after they had a fire. So in Alcott, the wall of Brownies custard stand is boarded up, and the restaurant remains closed for the immediate future after a fire damaged the kitchen. Now this issue is from Thursday, May 28th. Eileen Neeson, a co-owner of the food and ice cream business, said her staff texted her at about 7 p.m. on Monday to say customers reported smoke. Now, this is like May 26th, I think. So customers saw smoke coming out of the building, but it wasn't smoky inside. Neeson said the heat from the grill probably heated the wall, and the fire started in the exterior wall, so it was smoldering in there all day. Neeson had been working at the Wilson business location when it happened. It was so busy at both places, she said. Memorial Day is typically the busiest day of the year. So I got here in Alcott around the same time the fire department did. They had to break open the side of the building and put a hole through it to put the fire inside the wall out. The town of Newfane owns the Lakeview Village Shoppers, where Neeson said she leases the space for brownies. She didn't know how long the buildings would be closed for estimates and repairs, but she said she hoped to reopen soon. I hope that it's going to be a week or so, but we have to wait for the repairs to be done and the health department to inspect it, Neeson said. We asked if we could do just ice cream, and the town said if we had a clearance for the health department, we could. So Neeson said she has contacted the health department to find out about reinspection so she could sell ice cream. So the Wilson High School students had got out to make a difference. The volunteers assisted 12 community organizations. On May 21st, they went out. They took a day outside the classroom to help out their community. How nice kids. So there's also another news. A local man inducted into the State Senate Hall of Fame. George Morelli was inducted into the New York State Senate Veterans Hall of Fame on Tuesday. The Niagara Falls resident was nominated for the honor by Senator Robert Wirt. A Democratic combat veteran of World War II, Army Sergeant George M. Morelli was drafted before he could even finish high school. Shortly after his 18th birthday in December of 1943, he registered with the local draft board. 3 months later, he was notified by the U.S. Army that they were drafting him into service. So by November 1944, he was stepping off a ship in Scotland, where shortly after he made his way across the English Channel to France. On December 7th, his 19th birthday, he and members of his unit began battling Germans. In a Buffalo News article discussing his time overseas, Morelli recalls, "I was young and scared stiff. I didn't realize what I was doing. It was kill or be killed. We had to commit ourselves to battle, and that was it." So as part of the 87th Infantry Division, 3rd Army, Morelli would soon go on to fight in the Battle of the Bulge, where he'd find himself positioned in a two-man foxhole with several days and 7 nights. Morelli recalls they had to. So relief came on Sunday, December 23rd. Thunderous sound of American fighter planes taking out the German tanks and forcing a retreat. So when Morelli finally got up, he realized his feet had been badly frostbitten, so bad he had to be taken off the battlefield and sent to a hospital in Paris, where he was later told he'd be heading home. And in the Buffalo Zoo, another article, they have the birth of a black howler monkey. The population of the Buffalo Zoo's rainforest falls has grown. The Buffalo Zoo announced Wednesday the birth of a baby black howler monkey, which entered the world on April 20th. Born to the first-time mom, Rio, age 7, and first-time dad, Tater, 8. The infant, which does not yet have a name or confirmed gender, is doing incredibly well in their care, zoo officials said. Black howler monkey mothers are known to provide incredibly attentive care for their infants, and Rio has been no different. Zoo staff have observed the baby constantly with mom, and Rio has done an excellent job caring for and feeding the infant. Visitors swinging by M&T Bank Rainforest Falls, hoping to catch a glimpse of the baby, should keep a close eye on Rio, as the infant is likely clinging to her belly. The baby will be on exhibit daily with mom and dad until around noon in the near future. Black howler monkeys are currently listed as near threatened by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, making this birth an incredibly positive development to ensure the survival of the species. In other news, a Tonawanda man pleads guilty to a 2024 fatal hit and run, and he faces 15 years in prison. A Tonawanda man pleaded guilty to several charges Wednesday, that was last Wednesday, related to a fatal hit and run crash that took the life of a 21-year-old man on Buffalo's west side in 2024. Brian M. Worth, 29, of Tonawanda, pleaded guilty before State Supreme Judge Paul Ojozek to one count of second-degree manslaughter. 2 counts of second-degree vehicular manslaughter, and 1 count of leaving the scene of an incident with reporting resulting in death. Both, who was not offered a reduced plea, Roth entered a guilty plea to all counts in the incident, according to Erie County Judge Michael Kane. And we do have one obituary, sadly, to announce here. It was Sandra Wachelski. She passed away on May 26th at Niagara Hospice. So, in other news, Ontario Mayor talks major Niagara Falls investment. So a top Canadian official told a local radio station host this week the talks are underway for a foreign investment group interested in spending big bucks to help grow the economy on both sides of the border in Niagara Falls. So during an appearance, which was a couple weeks ago on Tuesday on the Viewpoint talk show hosted by Tom Darrow on WEBR AM 1440, Niagara Falls, Ontario Mayor Jim Diodati said a major foreign investment group planning to invest billions in his community is also very interested in getting involved in undeveloped efforts in the United States, redevelopment efforts in the United States. Diodati said that told Darrow he had a telephone call planned for later in the day on Tuesday with Niagara Falls Mayor Robert Rossino and a representative from the group of foreign investors. Diodati said that he was unable to discuss specifics of the inviters' interest due to a non-disclosure agreement that he had signed. And I have been talking to Mayor Diodati for some weeks about a development that would straddle both sides of the border, Rostiano said on Wednesday. He said the conversations have been taking place with representatives of an urban economic subcommittee connected to the United States. We talked about the possibilities for development, Rostiano said. There are international investors and countries that are interested in this kind of development. And in other news, NASA lays out the moon base plans with landers and more. So they want to build a colony on the moon, I guess. So Cape Canaveral, Florida, NASA is already ordering landers, rovers, and drones for a sprawling moon base less than 2 months after the Artemis II record-breaking lunar fly-around. The space agency outlined the first phase of its moon base plans on Tuesday, awarding hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts to 4 U.S. companies. Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, will provide a pair of landers to deliver moon buggies to the lunar surface at a spot near the moon's south pole. These so-called lunar terrain vehicles will be built by Astrolab and Lunar Outpost. Firefly Aerospace, which landed successfully on the moon last year, will deliver the first drones to the moon. All this hardware is ideally supposed to arrive before the first Artemis astronauts land on the moon, planned for as early as 2028. During April's Artemis II mission, 4 astronauts flew around the moon, traveling deeper into space than the Apollo moon cruise did during the late 1960s and the early 70s. For next year's Artemis III, another team of astronauts will practice docking NASA's Orion capsule in orbit around Earth, with the lunar landers being developed for crews by Blue Origin and Elon Musk's SpaceX. NASA is targeting Artemis III for mid-2027, with the landing by 2 astronauts following as soon as 2028. The moon's base second phase from 2029 into the early 2030s. Will start building up the permanent infrastructure, including a power grid. As for when the base will be ready to support astronauts for extended periods and specialized permanent habitats, that's expected sometime in the 2030s during the 3rd phase. Then we'll be able to say, hey, we're permanently here, and we're not giving it up. Wow. So, in other news, the survey says 2 or 3 Americans are cutting back on spending. In Washington, the U.S. consumer confidence declined slightly this month as gas prices stayed high and inflation remained elevated, a sharp contrast to soaring stock prices hover near record levels. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index slipped 0.7 points to 93.1 in May, the first decline after 3 months of gains. The measure hasn't fallen as much this year as other gauges of consumer attitudes, but it has been struck at a low level ever since the pandemic. Before COVID-19, it regularly reached 130. A separate gauge of consumer sentiment released last week by the University of Michigan fell to a record low this month. Soaring gas and food costs have worsened inflation that is outpacing the average growth in paychecks, reducing most American purchasing power, and Americans have soured on President Trump's economic policies. Polls show that potentially creating problems for Republicans heading into the midterm elections. Consumer sentiment is mostly gloomy, even as the economy is still growing and the unemployment rate has stayed low. Some economists argue that the gap reflects inequality in a K-shaped economy, with higher income Americans benefiting from rising stock prices and still spending while lower income households struggle. Tuesday's Consumer Confidence Survey showed that confidence grew among households with incomes at or above $100,000, while it fell for most others. The prospect of higher prices and faster inflation continues to loom over confidence readings, with many households taking a more cautious approach to purchases this year. There are some positive signs, Ayers noted. Americans' expectations for growth 6 months into the future improved, potentially a sign they expect the Iraq War to be over by then. The Iran War to be over by then. Still, Americans' outlook on the job market worsened slightly. The proportion of respondents who said jobs are plentiful dropped to 25.5%, and that's the lowest in 3 years. Gas prices have soared to a nationwide record of $4.49 a gallon, and now they were $4.59, and now they're coming back down again a little bit. And it was just $2.98 just before the war began at the end of February, and has been at or above $4.50 a gallon nearly all of May. Wow. And again in this issue, we have some more comics to read. So these two men are in a car. They go by a sign that says "Do not pass," and one guy says to the other one, "Oh, just like in high school." So in Drabble, Drabble's sitting on a beanbag chair with his dog, and he's thinking. The dog is saying, "Hey, give me some room. I'm trying to sleep." Drabble says, "Now you know how I feel when you get in my bed at night." And he's laying on the dog's bed. The dog's name's Wally. And the dog goes, "Oh, geez." So the cat and the dog and Mother Goose and Grimm, the dog's playing the piano. And the cat said to him, "What key would you like to play in?" The dog said, "Key West." Don't blame him. So when Tiger and his friend Hugo got their baseball bats and gloves when they're walking with their dog, and Tiger says, "Guess what? I met our senator today." And Hugo said, "Well, honest?" And Tiger said, "I don't know about that, but he was very friendly." You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Lockport Union-Sun Journal on the Niagara Frontier Reader Reading Service. Let's move on to our Friday, May 29th issue. So there was a rare sight. The two pelicans, wow, stopped in at Olcott during the somewhat tropical weather on Tuesday. The pelicans were seen bobbing in the water inside the breakwall to Lake Ontario by Olcott resident Vic Thibault, who snapped a photo of them. And they're like just hanging out there in the water, bobbing along by the rocks. So the pelicans have been seen bobbing in the water. Although he said he's not a birder who checks off sightings from a list, he enjoys seeing the birds he recognizes. The eagles are all coming back, and the osprey are out there all the time now, Theobald said. White pelicans are rare and are usually observed annually for a brief time somewhere in western New York, said Beverly Seiler of the Buffalo Ornithological Society. Last year they were seen June 11th to the 14th. So Seiler said that the pelicans last June were seen in Wilson and Olcott. Brett Edwall, a Ransomville native who was director of Cape May Bird Observatory in New Jersey, said in western New York they're kind of an uncommon wandering bird. They probably show up in western New York not quite every year, but show up somewhere in at least a couple of years. every couple of years. Sometimes it's a small group, but sometimes an individual. But often it's small groups up to 6 or 8. It's a bird, really, of the West. They breed out in the West and Midwest Canada, and in winter all across the far southern U.S., by Florida to Texas to California. They don't really breed anywhere east of the Mississippi. It's a great bird to see. They show up in places like the Iroquois Montezuma, along the lakes at the Niagara River, places like that. In other news, the cruise ship's arrival signals new era of tourism. You probably heard about this or seen it on the news. A day trip to Niagara Falls is now officially part of a cruise ship itinerary. For the first time in decades, on Thursday, a cruise ship, the American Patriot, sailed into western New York, docking near the Erie Basin Marina, as part of its inaugural Great Lakes cruise. Today, passengers from the cruise ship will take this again, it was on Friday, May 29th, will take place, take an excursion to Niagara Falls to experience the state park and other local attractions. Destination Niagara, USA will conduct a brief ceremony upon their arrival. So it was a 130-passenger American Patriot. It was met with much fanfare on Thursday. That's last week. Today we are embarking on a new chapter for Buffalo's waterfront, Governor Kathy Hochul said. As we welcome the American Patriot, we are bringing new visitors, new revenue, and a new sense of pride to Buffalo. Pretty good. And in other news, there's a summer program that was approved. The Common Council unanimously approved a resolution on Wednesday to implement a contracted summer youth program at Arthur Willow Park again this year. The program will hire the Keenan Center and YWCA of Niagara to provide recreational activities for youngsters at a combined cost of $39,000. John Craig, the First Ward Alderman and chairman of the city's youth committee, said the council needed to approve the initiative before memoranda of agreement could be finalized with the two nonprofit organizations. Okay, in other news, think it's hot now? Well, the next 5 years are going to smash records. In Washington, the next 5 years, the Earth is overwhelmingly likely to surge again and again past the international climate threshold, set as safe and shatter its hottest year record along the way, according to new United Nations climate projections. The World Meteorological Organization also forecasts an overheating Arctic that warms nearly 3 degrees Fahrenheit between now and 2030, and a dangerous drought with potential wildfires for the Amazon, a crucial part of Earth's natural defenses to lessen human-caused climate change. A hotter global from the burning of coal, oil, and gas means more extreme weather, including floods, droughts, and heat waves, scientists say. The projections by the UN Climate Agency and the United Kingdom's Meteorological Office said there's a 75% chance that the average global temperature between 26 and 30 will be more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, or that's 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, higher compared to pre-industrial times. That threshold is the agreed-upon limit of warming, agreed over 20 years, set in 2015 by the Paris Climate Agreement. So a UN science report a few years later detailed how exceeding that 1.5 mark means. It means more likely death, danger, and species loss. Even though it's only a few tenths of a degree, some of the plant's ecosystems, such as coral and glaciers, can't handle the strain. There's a 91% chance that at least one of the next 5 years will shoot past the 1.5 degree threshold, and an 86% chance that one of those years will smash the record for Earth's hottest year, set in 2024. The WMO report said the WMO projects each year between now and 2030 will be between 1.3 degrees Celsius, or 2.3 degrees Fahrenheit, and 1.9 degrees Celsius, or 3.4 degrees Fahrenheit, since the last 1800s. It's important to note that 1.5 is a kind of a cliff edge that we're going to fall off of, he said. But every kind of 0.1 of a degree has more and more severe impact. In another news, Happy, who taught researchers that elephants can recognize themselves, is euthanized. Oh no. And In New York, Happy, a Bronx Zoo elephant who gave researchers new insight into the animal's behavior and became the crux of a closely watched animal rights case, has been euthanized at age 55, the zoo said Wednesday. The Asian elephant was put to sleep Tuesday at the zoo, where she lived for almost a half a century. Zoo officials said some age-related conditions accelerated in recent weeks, and she showed signs of falling off in kidney or liver function. Necropsy revealed arthritis and large inoperable uterine tumors that are impossible to diagnose in elephants through exams or imaging, the zoo said. She was a wonderful elephant, interim zoo director Craig Piper said in an interview Wednesday, as the heavy-hearted staffers absorbed the loss of an animal some have attended to for over 30 years. She served as a tremendous ambassador for elephants and for elephant conservation. Since Happy's death, the zoo's 57-year-old Patty is the last elephant on exhibit in the United States' largest city. The zoo's parent institution, the Wildlife Conservation Society, decided 20 years ago to stop acquiring pachyderms. Born in the wild in Asia, Happy was brought to the U.S. as a 1-year-old. She was named for a character from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs before arriving at the zoo in 1977. Happy keenly engaged with her keepers and was easy to motivate with favorite treats, such as watermelon or strawberries. In 2005, she showed researchers that elephants can recognize themselves in a mirror, a sign of self-awareness seen in only a few other species. During the experiment, Happy faced her reflection and repeatedly used her trunk to touch an X painted above her eye, a mark she could only see in the mirror. And again, we have some comics in this issue. Let's see what we have going on now. And Drabble, the dog, is out now. And he's out in the backyard, and there's some birds and butterflies, a frog, squirrel. And all the animals turn to him and they go, "Wally!" And the dog says to them, "Sorry I'm late this morning." So they're all his friends. So Mother Goose Grim, dog and cat are sitting watching TV on a chair. And somebody on TV says, "For $200, who said let them eat cake?" And the cat says, "Duncan Hines." And the dog says, "Betty Crocker." So, and Tiger and his friend Hugo are outside, and they got toys all over the place. Bikes, cars, trucks, everything. And Hugo's sitting down. He said, "I was thinking of running away from home, but I gave it up." And Tiger says, "How come?" He said, "Well, I can't carry all my stuff." And it was a whole bunch of stuff all over the ground. And in Baldo is outside at the fair with a couple of friends, a guy and a girl. And he says to his friend, "Hey, Cruz, didn't Raina come today?" "Are you guys breaking up?" the girl says. He goes, "What? No. Her friend is giving her a beauty makeover." So what she's doing is she's painting something. Oh, Raina is, oh dear, she's making a real mess of it. She's putting facial cream on her. Now let's move on to our last issue for today, which is May 30th to 31st. And that was Saturday and Sunday. So, Life's a Beach in Alcott. Oh, it looks really nice. You got a nice picture of the water. Some people standing out by the beach, overlooking the water by the pier. Oh, it looks so nice. Having one of the warmer days. So, Alcott Swimming Beach opened for the season this past weekend, offering wide open lake views and space for families to play. While the weather is still warming up, John Syracuse, Town and Newfane supervisor, said that the municipality takes pride in offering an enjoyable, free experience to visitors looking to picnic, splash, and get away from it all. For June, the beach is open Fridays from 3 to 7 and Saturdays and Sundays from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And temperatures increased last weekend, so did the visitors, Syracuse noted. Saturday, our poor lifeguards were freezing, he said. Sunday was better, and Monday we had about 50 people there. Most of them are young families. It's another piece of the pie down there when you are done with shopping and the carousel rides and ice cream and the food. In another news, energy checks are on the way. So, New York State spending $1 billion on energy rebates for eligible residents. When Governor Kathy Hochul and legislator leaders reached a deal on a $268 billion state budget, and included energy rebate checks for 8.2 million eligible New York taxpayers. The one-time protecting our wallet's energy rebate is called Power. Credits aim to help offset the rising cost of gas and electric bills. We know New Yorkers need some relief, Hochul said. They need utility relief. The bills are just getting higher and higher, and it is so discouraging for our families. According to the comment list, eligible New Yorkers will not have to apply for the rebate. They'll automatically receive the checks between September and December of this year. The Democrat and Chronicle reports anyone who was a full-time New York resident in 24 and filed a timely tax return will be eligible. If they had a state adjustment gross income below $300,000 for joint filers or below $150,000 for singles. So in other news, the Roadside Dames rocket flower has 250 years of history. It's a rocket flower. They look like those phloxes. So many of the flowers now bursting into color at the side of the road are the legacy of the nation's European settlers of 250 years ago. Whether white, yellow, or pink, these midsummer blooms are related, literally as members of the mustard family. Although histories don't pinpoint an exact date or settler who is responsible, the plants can be traced back to the 1600s in North America, introduced as medicinal herbs, flavorings, and garden beauties. With the yellow mustard blossoms now waning, the violet and white shades of Dame's rocket are making show in Niagara County. Some people look at it as a wildflower, others consider it invasive. The John Fargella, horticulturalist for Cornell Corporate Extension of Niagara County. I think it's very pretty. I'm not aware of anyone restricting it. It reseeds fairly easy, and I don't know if I've ever seen it as one of the really aggressive ones. It's probably somewhat limited by mowing. I know they've got to be on the New York State's invasive list. And in other news, the town of Niagara supervisor is optimistic for the fashion outlets. Well, the town of Niagara, despite fashion outlets of Niagara, USA seeking out county tax incentives to help navigate a drop in customer traffic, largely from Canada, town of Niagara supervisor Sylvia Virtuoso is confident that mall can rebound. We have had times where that dropped, Virtuoso said, on border traffic. She said she's hopeful for a change in attitude that's been keeping Canadian shoppers away. Being a border town, we love them. She added that they do not get enough tourists coming in to support it, while needing to encourage locals to shop there, as it also faces fewer customers due to e-commerce. The mall's parent company, Macerich, had applied for $17 million in Niagara County Industrial Development Agency tax incentives this month to help it through his rough time. The agency board granted preliminary approval, with a public hearing needed before they vote on final approval in June. The town of Niagara has also negotiated its pilot agreement with the mall, replacing two existing pilots that were due to expire in 27 and 30. It would provide $10.7 million for taxing jurisdictions over the next 10 years, with Macerich paying a $350,000 host community payment and $600,000 in tax payments, increasing by 2% each year. The host community agreement would be the same, while the pilot would be worth half of what they were before. So Macerich representatives at this month's IDA meeting said that these incentives were imperative to the mall's stability. The company also has a $76.4 million loan balance payment due October 1st, with reps saying a settlement with lenders was imminent. Fashion outlets usually contributes more than 50% of the county's sales tax amount, which ends up getting distributed amongst the municipalities. Last year, Niagara County collected $178.4 million in overall sales tax in 2025, according to the State Controller's report on local sales taxes. And then in other news, a rare blue moon, micromoon, rises this weekend. In Cape Canaveral, Florida, gets set for a rare blue micromoon this weekend, a blue moon that's also the most distant and smallest looking moon of the year. A bonus, the brilliant star Antares will photobomb Sunday's spectacle For a celestial, 3 for 1. A blue moon occurs every 2 or 3 years when a second full moon squeezes into a single month. May 1st saw this month's first full moon. Since the moon's orbit isn't a perfect circle, the upcoming full moon will be further from the Earth than usual, at a distance of 252,360 miles, making it seem a bit smaller and dimmer. It's the opposite of a supermoon when a full moon comes closer to us than normal. The most recent supermoon, for instance, was just 225,130 miles away. The Virtual Telescope project's Gianluca Massi, who will provide a live webcam from Italy, says Sunday's micromoon will appear about 6% smaller and 10% dimmer than that of the average full moon, differences that are subtle enough to likely be unnoticed by most observers. And again, the American Patriot cruise ship guests stopped by Niagara Falls, and we just read that article. So we do have a couple of, unfortunately, obituaries in this issue also. Douglas McIntyre passed away on May 10th. He was a Lockport resident. Diane Sansone, I believe we've seen her before, the last issue. And she also passed away on May 23rd. We are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Lockport Union-Sun Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. So, in other news, Donald Trump provides weather to move forward with the Iran deal. In Washington, now this is going back to Saturday and Sunday, May 30th and 31st. So, the U.S. President Donald Trump held a White House Situation Room meeting with his advisors Friday, but has not yet made a decision on whether to move forward with the deal to extend the Iran ceasefire and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Iran said the agreement has not been finalized. Ahead of the meeting, Trump said he was looking to make a final determination. A senior administration official later said that the roughly 2-hour meeting with national security aides has concluded without a decision. So the official, who was not authorized to comment publicly and spoke on condition of anonymity, said Trump would only sign a deal that satisfies red lines and curb Iran's nuclear ambitions. Trump confirmed the high-level talks a day after the Associated Press and other news outlets reported that U.S. and Iran negotiations have come to terms on tentative agreement. The deal would extend the fragile ceasefire by 60 days as new talks are held on Iran's disputed nuclear program. So Trump wrote on social media that Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. He said the strait must be reopened for international navigation and all sea mines destroyed. I didn't know they put mines in there. And so in other news, a developer targets a $125 million mixed-use project in the Falls. So a Niagara Falls hotel and hospitality developer is preparing to file plans for a $125 million mixed-use project on Buffalo Avenue. Element Development, the parent company of Rupal Hospitality, the owners of several hotel and motel properties in the city, is looking to develop more than 200 apartments, 100 condominiums, along with restaurants and retail shops, on a collection of properties just south of the Marriott Courtyard Hotel. Rupal is currently constructing a $14 million expansion of that hotel. The new project has been dubbed the Gateway because its proposed location is at the entrance of the city's Gateway District just off the Niagara Scenic Parkway. And in other news, 8% of the U.S. lack health insurance in 2025, so the proportions of Americans without health insurance held steady at about 8% of the population in 2025, according to new findings from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The national survey results released Thursday show that all ages uninsured rate has stayed significantly down from where it was several years ago, but the ranks of the uninsured could soon expand as the Trump administration's sweeping changes to the healthcare landscape begin to take hold. Massive changes to Medicaid, the government's safety net health program for low-income Americans, passed into law last year, could result in 10 million more uninsured individuals over a decade. And the expiration this year of Central Affordable Care Act subsidies, which had offset premium costs, is also contributing to reduce participation in marketplace health programs. So around 5 million fewer people are expected to enroll in those plans in 26 compared with 25. The government has multiple programs for tracking Americans' insurance status, which can give different numbers depending on its factors like timing and question wording. Many researchers consider the U.S. Census Bureau to be the official scorekeeper. We got some summer things here. We have some recipes. So you're supposed to lighten up your potato salad with green sauce? Green chili potato salad. I don't know. You have flambémo pepper seeds. Oh, it's going to be a little bit spicy. Jalapeno peppers. Garlic, cilantro, parsley, mint leaves, lemon juice, lemon zest, kosher salt, ground cumin, ground black pepper, extra virgin olive oil, and of course your potatoes. I think instead of going through all of that, I think I'd rather just go to Tops and buy some. So they have a perfect summer lunch. Wow. Stracciati di manzo, which translates roughly from the Italian to little rags of beef, as a trattoria staple. The cooking is minimal and quick, making this ideal for a weeknight dinner. Oh, it's a salad with arugula. So it's got, beef tri-tip steaks. Well, it's not too bad. Kosher salt, baby arugula, cherry tomatoes, olive oil, lemon, garlic, balsamic vinegar, cheese. It's not too bad. And then I had poached salmon and broccoli Caesar salad. Could make a healthy, hearty meal. If you like salmon, there's all different kinds of ways to make it. And the poached salmon, I've never had that before. You poach it in white wine, I guess. It doesn't sound too bad. So here's an opinion. We haven't read any opinions today. Let's read an opinion. And this opinion is by, it's a commentary by B.B. Singer. And he says, sometimes one thinks he or she knows a certain subject, then suddenly finds a metal rug pulled out, which recently happened to me. So FDR and his wife Eleanor, the latter, so crucial to his astonishing career, of course. I previously read some of them, but mea culpa, I had this couple of categories and pigeonholed, and wrongly, till I watched the PBS American Experience program on them. A true gem, and as in Johnny Cash's iconic Boy Named Sue, ended up with a different point of view. When I found out that FDR's amazing climb to the Oval Office was anything but foreordained, for he started out as a partition man with about town and one lacking empathy for his wife as she bore him 6 kids. Into the bargain, he had a love affair behind her back and just seemed, well, charming and superficial. As for Eleanor, she became depressed by the marriage, even at one point wanting to leave. Well, then came FDR's polio, and paradoxically, this terrible scourge made them both. And Eleanor had to stop up and work hard on its seemingly shattered political career, and he learned to care about suffering in the land given the terrible cross he now had to bear. Laboriously overcoming the fact that he really couldn't walk, FDR became, and amazingly, a popular multi-term president in the midst of a challenging depression, then World War. So why do I liken this celebrated Democrat to Donald Trump? Because both were outliners who probably made it to the White House, then shattered conventional wisdom and prior senators by their novel views and policies. Both weren't at all fond of waiting. Some problems to work on? Do it now, not later. Both had to grapple with the courts, if in Trump's case, much more than FDR's. But the Donald has also had to endure huge dollops of media opinions and deep state malfunctions, far more again than Roosevelt ever did, and with an opposition party hardly willing to work with him at all, no matter what he proposes. Trump's has such trammels in his own form of a New Deal would have made 500 times more pronounced had his opponents, again including numerous lawyers and justices, not kept putting figurative sticks in his wheels. But what's about to improve when he recently had smugglers' boats full of drugs like fentanyl blow up, the latter substance right up with the big H, and the inflicting great damage on generations of our future. By contrast, the Pine Joe scarcely gave a rip about that grave problem. Not to mention his formerly poor southern border. What not to like about making it a real one, or trying to reduce staggering murder rates in Chicago or D.C. Was not to appreciate, too, in Trump's appointment of the stellar specialist Dr. Marty Markley, now scrutinizing TV's medical ads regarding their lack of warnings about side effects, etc., or in the current administration, trying to get very flush Ivy League colleges off the government dole using taxpayer billions they don't fully deserve, given their recent history of titillating mainly one way on the ideological spectrum, or in Trump's B-2s blowing up Iran's nuclear installations and giving Israel carte blanche in that regard, too. All this may not be your cup of tea, as Roosevelt's New Deal for reforms weren't to those preaching minimal government intervention, or as his subsequent purge into war via aid to beleaguered Great Britain, that his response to Pearl Harbor wasn't to American isolationists. Instead, however, it was some truth that those who haven't made enemies haven't done much in life. Well, FDR made plenty with his forthright U-turn from his prior policies under President Hoover. Trump, he, of course, gathered many more than Roosevelt ever did, a huge amount, foaming at the mouth with endless loathing of anything and everything he does. Of course, most managed to take the anti-COVID jabs. Trump's solid support and erasure of cloying regulations helped make a rapid success for companies like Pfizer. In conclusion, I realize I won't persuade everyone with this comparison, but I still admire both FDR and Trump, each becoming presidents at powerless moments in American history, once requiring and getting bold new ideas and truly forthright leadership. Okay, this is just an opinion, and it was an opinion by a comment and commentary by B.B. Singer. And since baseball season's upon us, let's do a further review of the Bambino. You know who that is? Babe Ruth. So on May 5th, 1915, 110 years ago, Babe Ruth of the Boston Red Sox hit his first major league home run. Ruth was at the start of his second season as a professional. He went on to play 22 seasons, setting records for most years, leading the league in home runs and most career home runs, one that would stand for 39 years. So George Herman Ruth was only 19 years old when he signed with the Baltimore Orioles at the time, a minor league affiliate for the Boston Red Sox. Ruth, a pitcher, proved so outstanding that the Red Sox called him up to the majors fairly quickly. Twice, Ruth won 23 games in a season. 3 times during Ruth's tenure with them, the Red Sox won the World Series, and in 1916, Ruth pitched 13 countless innings in a single game, scoreless innings in a single game. Ruth asked the Sox to use him only on days in which he didn't pitch. In return, he tried for the Major League home run title in 1918. So in 1919, the Red Sox made a point of sending Ruth to the plate more often to make better use of his hitting ability. He responded by setting a single-season home run record. On December 16, 1919, the financially strapped owner of the Boston Red Sox sent Ruth to the New York Yankees for $100,000. Nearly $1.5 million in today's dollars. This marked the end of an era of great fortune for the Red Sox. The team wouldn't win another World Series for 86 years. Red Sox fans would call this the curse of the Bambino. And as a good pitcher as Ruth was, the Yankees were more interested in his batting skills. They made him a full-time outfielder, which allowed Ruth to concentrate on knocking in runs. So you have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the current issues of the Lockport Union-Sun Journal. We read from the Lockport Union-Sun Journal every Saturday at 5. Your reader has been Marge Lauber, and I thank you for listening, and everybody have a great day.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Jamestown Post-Journal. At 7 o'clock, we got the Niagara Falls Review, and at 8 o'clock, we have the Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal. Stay with us for these readings and more. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Radio readers broadcast daily readings 24 hours a day of newspapers, magazines. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which